is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 814, Joker Folie.
Joker, this movie.
Yeah.
It was in French, that's what that means.
Oh, good. I didn't, you know what? I wasn't going to waste my time translating it.
Yeah.
It's funny. The
As a secret bro, this movie offends
oh
me.
my god, Folie à Deux is two people sharing a similar
Dream.
Shitty
dream.
movie?
Well,
Oh.
a dream sequence. So if you want to see a better version of this, go watch The Substance.
Yeah. So I guess let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Before we dig in, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That is super helpful and greatly appreciated. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/realspoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we are hoping you will share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week include Tammy Lynn Powers, Betz, Lane Levanway, Ralph Tribble, Glenn Cougar Mellenbrewer, Gabriel Lugo, Tom Dowdy, Julianne Jordan, Chris Valls, Phil Timon, Chris Magic Man, Richard Krotzer, Travis Tewitt, Taylor Ward, Aaron Kyleman, Heather Sachs, Cinema Recall, David Rojas, Mike, and Oscar, Colby Mack, Crooked Table, Binge Movies, Ronnie Castle, Geek to Me Radio, Nostalgia Cast, Ryan Terry, In Session Film, and Matt Naglia. Of course, we also have a Patreon because that's the law. You can find it at patreon.com/Real Spoilers. It's only $5 a month, and you get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra.
And somebody better call the law because
That's where he's
that's
at.
Matt F. Basler's podcast.
And I was actually on one.
Oh,
they
really?
They let you in?
Yeah, they
It's
let me
tough.
in. Yeah.
It's tough to get into that club.
Did that
Yeah.
ever come out? Did that happen?
That hasn't happened
No,
yet.
not
okay.
yet.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Okay. So, but
I had to get through 4 hours of substance reviews. When you get a double-length episode, you don't get a Patreon.
That's fair. That's fair. So, and then also don't forget you can watch all of these on the YouTube. So, there's all that. Let's dig in.
Do you guys remember
No.
when
Good movies.
when DC, the comic books, right? They launched this new initiative. It was the New 52. They were going to start everybody from scratch. Everything was going to be easily accessible. Your characters were going to look a little bit different, but everything was going to be the same.
So that thing comic book companies do every 7 years.
All the time,
Yes.
right? It was
They've
not
been doing
successful.
this like every 7. They've been doing this like every 7 years.
They're doing it again.
since like the 80s.
Well, actually, they're doing it right. This time is they're keeping. So they're going to launch the Absolute line of comics.
Okay.
That's going to be completely separate from. So you're going to have your everything staying the same over here.
Okay.
And you're going to have these new books over here
That'll
you can
be
jump
weird.
onto if you would like.
Gotcha.
Whatever. So that worked for a little bit. They get about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years into this, and they're like, this isn't working. We're going back to the original stuff. All of those titles, when they announced that they were going back to the original stuff, there's a dip in quality, and they are just limping to the finish line.
Yeah.
That is what this movie is.
Well, because they've taken the good talent, because there's a lead time
Right.
on comic book productions, right?
Yes.
And so they're taking the good talent and putting it on the books that you're gonna see
Correct.
in 3 or 4 months.
Correct.
And in the meantime, they're giving the B team
a chance.
or the C team, and sometimes that works to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
Those last couple Moon Nights where Stephen Platt was doing the
man.
artwork,
Give me some
and people
Splat
were,
Moon Knight.
on all of a sudden those things were going for like $50-$60 a pop.
Still.
Yeah, because it was just like, but they would have never let that guy do that.
No.
normally. So
No.
it's, yeah. And
When
it's,
Snyder and Capullo took over, I mean, that
Well,
was a
Snyder
great
and
run.
Capullo were on the initial New 52 run, and that was great.
But that was a great run. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
fantastic.
it works out.
Right.
Because they were phenomenal.
Yeah, that Court of Owls, all that stuff is
Oh, yeah.
pretty wonderful. That's what this movie is.
This
movie is like Warner Brothers limping to the finish line.
Well, this movie is. Oh wait, you made the highest grossing rated R movie of all time until Deadpool 3,
and you feel bad about it.
Yeah. So let's do everything different than the movie that grossed $1 billion for the first time ever for a rated R movie.
Because you feel bad about it.
You feel bad about what?
I think this movie is like him trying to walk back
because he made like an incel movie.
A lot of the toxic bro
incel movie. That
bull-
first one.
the first movie. Like, and I don't like. Look, I thought the first Joker movie was great.
I thought it's great too.
I don't think that movie was pro incel,
No.
fanboy, crazed mob violence.
Do I think he meant to do that?
But
No.
I think it was easily interpreted
People took
as that.
I said the same thing back then. I said Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, two of my favorite films of all time, two of my favorite Scorsese films, certainly. You aren't supposed to think those characters are good people.
And yet people did.
Right.
Like
But-
Taxi Driver had the same issues,
Right, and
right?
inspired what was the assassin?
John Hinckley.
John Hinckley.
Oh, is that right?
That's who shot Reagan,
Reagan shot
and he
Reagan,
did
yeah.
it because he
Because
wanted
of
to
Taxi
impress
Driver.
Jodie
Jodie
Foster,
Foster.
who was in Taxi Driver.
So it's like, but like those are two.
Little
of my
did he
favorite-
know.
But
Don't bother.
But the
well, even if she was heterosexual,
That's not the way
Don't
to-
bother, right? Just to be fair,
Let's just-
that was ultimately not the stumbling block. Just to be clear,
Just so we're all on the same page.
Yes.
So, I mean, going back forever, there's been movies like that have something to say, and they can get misconstrued and misinterpreted. Those are great movies, but Travis Bickle is not a good person.
Right.
And Joker is not a good person. He's the Joker.
Well, that's the part that is very frustrating. And Kevin Smith actually has a great line about that. If you ever watch That Evening with Kevin Smith, where
that's great.
this gal talks about
which one? There's like 9 of them.
the first one.
Well, there's another evening with Kevin
Yeah,
Smith.
and then there's an evening
the first
harder.
one.
Yeah.
But this gal she makes a comment about I think it was TS and who are the two guys in Chasing Amy?
Oh, it's not TS. That's Mallrats.
It's the other one.
You're talking about Holden, McNeil, and Banky.
Banky makes a comment about how all Joey Lauren Adams all Amy needs is to get laid and she'll turn around.
Right.
And she's like, don't you understand how that's bad? And he was like, but don't you understand how I'm putting that argument into the mouth of the guy who's always
Right.
wrong, thus negating the argument.
right.
It's like when villains say bad things. We've talked about this.
Well, it's like watching 12 Years a Slave and being like, and
this
and
movie's
like,
racist.
right. It's like,
what?
well, yeah. I mean, that's kind
that's
of
the whole
There's
point.
really not another way to tell this story.
I think people view the Joker at this point kind of in the same world as Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, where they want to see the Joker do awful stuff. The problem is Freddy and Jason are make-believe. And obviously the Joker is too, but there is an element of real life to
He doesn't
the
have
Joker.
superpowers. He's not
just
supernatural.
A guy.
He's a guy that could do crazy.
He's not a dream demon. He's not a walking hulking zombie. He's a real person.
And remember the mass shooting that was inspired by the Joker.
Absolutely.
So it's like
Yeah, you don't see
not
mass-
the movie The Joker, but the character. The Joker.
Oh yeah,
It was
from the
before
dark. It was
that,
the
yeah.
Rises
for-
or the Dark Knight,
I think it was The Dark Knight.
or was the Dark Knight Rises?
Well, I think it was Dark Knight Rises, but he was like dressed as the Joker.
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
was
yeah.
like but like people are gonna take things and make them into crazy stuff. But the point is, you're not supposed to think, oh, this movie has like the movie's called Joker, so he's the hero. Like if you're reading film like that, that's not how it works. He can be the main character of the
Yeah.
film and be a bad guy. I mean, there's movies that follow serial killers. There's all sorts of stuff, and it's not like just because their names in the title or you follow them, it's not saying, oh, agree with everything they do. You know, movies can say all sorts of different things, and so
Yeah, you're not rooting for Jeffrey Dahmer,
of course not.
right? Like that's, and granted, that's a weird. I will say
Well, maybe
though,
those first 2 episodes.
that's really good though.
Yeah.
That's really good. It is weird to see people hop on the like Kyle and Lyle Menendez are innocent train, like with this like the new show that's out. People are just like, let them free. It's like they're pretty sure they massacred their parents.
But,
You don't
but
get to-
apparently they were abused too. I haven't watched the thing, but like I do think people are starting to realize that there are victims.
Are they victims?
I guess that's for
You can be both.
right.
That's true.
Like if people are abused and they only can only take so much, sometimes they snap. That's not to say that's the legal or right way to handle it.
Right.
But it's also, I think, important to understand if that stuff happens. Like, you know, I mean, if someone's abused and beaten and whatever, and you defend yourself, are you going to say, well, that person's a cold-blooded murderer?
But we don't. This is a very.
But that's what they're trying to do.
But
That's what
that was their defense. Yes,
Yeah.
that was their defense.
And we, as a culture, take those arguments a little bit more seriously than we did back then.
that is fair.
Right?
That is
Right.
fair.
There's talk about mental health. Remember, it was. I mean, think about a decade ago. People didn't talk about mental health.
Well,
it was like
this movie tried to get into that, where it's like, is he? And that's what I will say about this movie. It is an interesting idea where Catherine Keener, who plays the Joker's lawyer, is like, look, there's Arthur Fleck and there's the Joker, and so this whole movie is centered around the trial of Arthur Fleck, and
yeah, this isn't a Joker movie. This is an Arthur Fleck movie.
yeah, which fine, right? Because I will say I have kind of done a 180 on the first movie. I think it looks incredible. He gives a performance that's out of this world. But I do think that it is, and whether Todd Phillips meant to do this or not, and honestly, I think there's some element to where he did mean to do it because he is kind of a bro-y director, right? I mean, Road Trip, The Hangover,
Old school.
maybe it's not Road Trip, maybe it's just old school. War Dogs, so his movies do kind of have a bro-y element to them. Hangover is great.
Well, what this movie shows is that so he made $1 billion movie that looked phenomenal, was more artistic than his past efforts. You know, made the money, got him his flowers, got him the props and everything, and the power to make what he wants to do. And this movie shows he thinks he is such an artiste. This movie is so up its own ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to be something like a Terrence Malick or I'm trying to think, even like a Scorsese movie that has that more art.
You're gonna tell me that Judge wasn't supposed to be Martin Scorsese?
It looked. That's what I thought. First time
Well,
I saw him, I
was
think
like,
it's Scorsese.
They wanted him, but they couldn't get him. So like, yeah, just put the glasses on him.
But
like,
he Todd Phillips thinks he is really, really doing something, and the writing is so bad. The plot is such a mess. It is
Yeah.
so disjointed.
There was a plot?
Yeah,
That's the
the
thing is,
musical
like-
sequences. Okay, he was just directing music videos, and then they stitched them together with
Yeah.
a bunch
Oh,
of,
sure.
might I add, boring scenes.
Mm-hmm.
That when they would burst into music, it was so bad. First of all, and I love Joaquin Phoenix, but his singing's terrible.
well,
Well,
you're right.
But I think some of that's purposeful.
So I thought what they should.
It's hard to enjoy a whole movie of a musical with a bad singer.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. What they should have done, since those are like delusions,
Mhm.
change his voice.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that make sense? That if it's a delusion, why wouldn't his voice be better?
I
or
don't. I mean, again,
different?
I think he's one of the greatest living actors. I think he's phenomenal. I do think he can't sing, and I again, it's not like what they're trying to do. It's an interesting idea, and I think for him being kind of a method actor and him doing it, props to him, good for him. But when the whole movie's a musical, basically, it's unbearable to hear someone that can't sing.
I mean, I don't think they're not. Goddamn! Don't make me defend this movie. They're not trying to make an honest to God musical, though, right? They don't want you to enjoy the songs. Joker's crazy and weird, and all of a sudden, if he sounds like Pavarotti, that's gonna be weird. Like it's like they want it to
don't
be
make this
or
movie
or
a
Or
musical.
Pagliacci.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think it, but I don't think it worked. Is my point. The musical
Oh, it didn't
number.
work.
No, it didn't
that's
work.
so
But
that-
but I like, and I hate to be like, don't take big swings, but like maybe Todd Phillips shouldn't take big swings.
Maybe
But-
bunt.
But in fairness, the first Joker was a big swing.
First
and
Joker,
and it worked really.
First
really
Joker
well.
had no business working.
The first Joker is Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, two
Right.
of the greatest Scorsese films. That's the problem. Here's Todd Phillips on his own, and it's not a Hangover movie, and it's not a Scorsese movie, but he's trying to make this artistic French musical. Let's make the umbrellas colorful like the umbrellas of Cherbourg. Like, let's do all these musical references, and it's like he's not. I'm sorry, I don't think he's a good enough director. You can be a populist director. You can be Michael Bay and make $1.5 million. I'm not billion. I'm not saying you're not a successful
we wish he made 1.5
director.
million.
Yeah,
so
I know,
he'd
right?
stop
Go
making
away.
Stuff.
But I'm not saying he can't make money. What I'm saying is he made this movie like he is some French new wave brilliant artiste.
I do think there's.
And it's bad.
I think the idea of the trial of Arthur Fleck is interesting.
Sure.
I think
Potentially,
Yeah.
right?
Could be, yeah.
Little primal fear. I think courtroom dramas have gone away for the most part. I think they probably go to TV. That's where they go. But I used to love courtroom dramas of like the defense
You want
lawyer.
the truth, you can't handle the truth.
Right, like that. Primal Fear is a great example.
Oh, all the Grisham, isn't it all the Grisham movies?
Yeah,
like
what's
Time
the one?
to Kill?
Is that the McConaughey one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
All
one.
those
Mississippi,
Grisham movies
Mississippi
are
Burning
incredible.
are like all of these where like the street level defense attorney is trying to get.
I mean, it's a time-honored genre of film. The Verdict,
Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird, Anatomy of a Murder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I mean,
when they're done right, they're great.
but this movie is so boring.
Perry Mason.
It's so bad
Chuck
and
and
so
Larry.
boring. This is one of the worst movies I've seen all year. I wanted to like it. I saw the mixed reviews and I go, I'm going to give it a chance. And I like musicals. None of this worked for me.
It's also hard. I
It looked bad too. It
Oh,
wasn't.
you think
as-
it did? I didn't think it
I
looked
thought
bad.
it looked bad.
How?
Uh-huh.
Where? Someone needs to do
Forensic
forensic
accounting.
accounting.
Where did this money go?
Where did the $200 million go? Unless Lady Gaga,
WB.
unless,
Sorry.
unless Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix got
Like
a
50
combined
each.
$190 million.
Well, the budget on the first one was like what, 20?
So they probably, because they made $1 billion, they probably didn't give them back end deals or as big of back end deals, and they demanded front end deals. Phillips and Phoenix have to get probably 30, 40, 50 million on the high end. Gaga does demand a good amount.
Yeah.
And then you have the rest of it. So, I mean,
This movie takes place in like three
spots.
locations,
For sure.
and two of them are jail cells.
No,
like what?
they're getting paid for that first movie. They didn't. I guarantee their deals weren't that great.
Yeah, I
the
think-
movie made $1 billion, and they go, if you want a sequel, you got to pay. That's just how it works.
I think they did not expect the first one to do what
No,
it did.
nobody thought it would be
Right.
that big of a deal. I mean, it became a hit movie, and it really wasn't that kind of.
The other issue is you've got Margot Robbie, who has basically defined Harley Quinn on film.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she is your definitive Harley Quinn.
I think Gaga was fine in this. She's
Yeah,
underutilized, but
she's a very
I
different
agree.
version of the character. Which,
I
honestly,
would also say though, this is a really bad scenario in which to say Margot Robbie was so good as Harley Quinn. How could anyone ever top that performance?
Right.
When we've said that about the Joker 3 times now.
that's true.
Right? I mean, when Nicholson did it, we're like, no one will ever top
This
it.
is so.
And then-
This is new.
And then Heath Ledger did it, and we were like, no one will ever top it. And then Jared Leto did it, and we were like, we were probably right about the Heath Ledger thing. And then Joaquin Phoenix topped it. We're like,
Right.
okay. So he's
I gotta tell you-
Jared Leto is like a sorbet
At
of
the-
Jokers. It's like a palate cleanser to
Yes,
get you
exactly
ready
right.
for the
Like,
new Joker.
Yeah.
no wonder Joker made $1 billion.
It's funny,
They're like, it wasn't that other
Even
thing.
at the Draft House, they did like a retrospective of like on-screen Jokers,
Yeah.
and they gloss over.
Oh yeah,
They
make fun
they
of
were
it.
like,
Yeah.
except for you,
Yeah.
like, and then
We
but
don't
then
talk
they,
about
but then
that
they
one.
made fun of the directors of. Oh, they made fun of David Ayer.
I
At one
must have
point,
missed that.
where he was
Oh.
just like, and some directors just don't get it.
Oh well,
and like
well
move past.
if you want to know why people are mad, then the people, the
Yes.
Snyder Bros
Yes.
and the Ayer Bros love Jared Leto Joker, and if you talk bad about any of that trifecta,
God forbid.
that holy trinity
Good
of
Lord.
Joker DC creatives, you are just done for. Yeah.
This movie, there's really not a lot. So like at the end of the first one, right? We're left with, is he fully the Joker? Is he Arthur? Like, was all of this a delusion? Was the entire movie a delusion?
That's the interesting part of it is
Yeah.
they don't clearly show you what's a delusion and what's not.
well,
This movie clearly shows you, and they're very bad sequences that are very disjointed. I know he said, I want this music video, I want this music video. It's like they filmed all the music videos, popped them in randomly, and they're like, oh, now we need Arthur staring at a wall with his shoulder blade popping out for 10 minutes. Insert there. It's just like for the 2-hour movie, wasn't this almost 2 hours?
It's 2 hours and 18
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
Not that I was counting.
Yeah, it's for a 2-hour plus movie. This movie did not need to be that long. I'm usually
No.
the person that says I don't mind a little longer movie, especially if it's artistic. I like to look at the cinematography, if the acting's really good. But this movie I felt every 30 minutes in, I felt it. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Go
When it
do
opens with
something.
an animated sequence that looks like
Oh, that was
some-
great. That was probably the best part of the movie.
Oh, see, I thought it
was
felt
great.
to me. It felt like somebody who has never actually watched a Looney Tune.
No, that was
before.
a very good homage to a Looney Tunes.
I don't know,
I thought
man.
that was great.
Yeah. So it just opens with a cartoon.
It's him and his shadow, and I think I thought they were doing something clever, thinking that again with the split personalities,
Yeah.
the shadow is one part, and then it's manipulating Arthur Fleck, and in the end, Arthur Fleck gets it. He gets it for all the stuff that the shadow made him do, or the shadow did.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting
Peter Pan. No, that's what he is.
Maybe one of those Grimm's fairy tales versions of Peter Pan. No, you're right. He is kind of a little goober, isn't he? The shadow, yeah.
And then we open up into Arkham, and it's basically it's Arthur in jail. Like that's all it is, and he's monotone, and he's not
Tracking shot.
big tracking shots. Yeah.
That's just, and I like tracking shots, but again, every part of this movie is Todd Phillips going, I am a director. You just feel it. You feel it on screen. He is trying so hard because you don't watch any of his other movies before Joker and go like, well, that guy has got a vision.
He knows
he
what
makes
he's
funny
doing.
funny movies, right?
Yeah.
And I understand wanting to rise above that.
I think he
and
had
be
the
a big
highest rated
director.
rated R comedy of all time. I think The Hangover
Was The Hangover also the?
Yeah.
That's right. It beat Beverly Hills Cop. You're right.
Yeah.
So
he does have.
no,
I mean,
he's got the cachet.
he's got two.
He's got the money.
two. Yeah.
I'm not saying he doesn't, but again, Michael Bay also has a lot of very high
true.
grossing.
That's true.
Seriously, and we don't say, "Oh, Michael Bay is a visionary." He
No.
makes fun, big explosion.
Well, we did at one point. Early in his
Visionary,
career,
he's
early
an action.
Early in his
darling.
career, those shots that he was doing in like Bad Boys and The Rock, nobody was doing shots like that. Those big, like wide
They were very
angled.
cool action.
But it wasn't
movies.
like he's gonna win an Oscar.
That is
it was
true.
like
He wasn't
this guy
Scorsese.
makes a
There's-
really cool action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm
Okay.
not saying that, again. I don't want to keep having to backtrack. I that's fine. You can be a good action director, but what I mean is Todd Phillips has made populist movies like Bay and some others, and he wants to achieve something more artistic. And Joker did it for him, but I think he had a lot of material to draw from.
Sure.
Scorsese even took his name off producing it. I think because
Did he really?
Yeah, he was supposed to produce the Joker, and I think he realized it's like you're just
Hey, man,
making
you're stealing my shit.
movies. Oh,
Well, he
so-
might have been worried that people would have thought he secretly directed it.
I
mean, you
yeah,
see-
no,
you
Was
know,
that the
like-
Mel Brooks? But
Like The
Mel
Fly and
Mel
Elephant
Brooks on
Man?
The Fly and the
Well, I
Elephant
think
Man?
in that case he was afraid people were going to think it was a comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, I mean, I almost wonder if he envisioned Poltergeist, Spielberg, Toby
Right.
Hooper
Oh,
situation,
sure,
where
sure.
this movie looks so much like what I do.
Yeah.
People are not going to believe that I didn't direct this movie. and
Right.
I don't want to direct this movie.
Well, I think it would just be weird too if you make a movie that's basically a remake of two great
I want to
Scorsese
direct.
films.
I want to direct a bunch of old guys looking like young guys.
Yeah, but if you make that movie and it says produced by Martin Scorsese, and then you just basically do like this remake or spiritual remake,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
weird. That would be very weird because then people would be like, "What? Why did he produce?"
I
this?
think I do think I honestly think we're going to see that more and more now. I think we're going to see more and more modern day directors. I think JJ is a great example. Like if you're going to tell me that JJ isn't inspired by Spielberg, like
Well, yeah,
his
he's his guy,
movies.
If you watch Spielberg, you can see things he took from John Ford
Exactly.
or whatever.
So
like
I do think we're going to see that more and more where modern day directors are going to start having
gonna have to, bro. There's
aesthetics.
not-
That's true, but I like if you look at a Carpenter movie,
Mhm.
like he doesn't exactly have a style,
Yeah,
but you can tell sometimes that it's a Carpenter movie. I think you're going to start seeing directors start to kind of have like tinges of other directors. Like the Scorsese thing is spot on. Like the way the Joker looks, the first one, it looks like a Scorsese movie.
yeah.
But I agree that you're going to have to. Like
Yeah, I mean, eventually
it's good. Somebody's going to come out of here at some point and
Yeah.
be like, "Holy shit, like they're changing the game."
Well,
I
that's
don't
why
think that's happening anytime
well, that's
soon.
why I like movies like The Substance or like the Neville Dean and Taylor stuff. Talk about reinventing action. They took the Michael Bay stuff, and I think they wiped the floor with what Bay's doing because they're young, artistic.
I wouldn't even say they
visionaries.
wiped the floor, but they definitely used it as a model and be like, hey, if we've got this, let's try this. You know what I mean? Like,
But like, I'd rather watch. I think the Neville Dean Taylor Bad Boys is more interesting, and I like the Michael Bay Bad Boys movies. I'm just saying, I think their vision was so good, and they're bringing in this. You know, you get kind of complacent. I think, unless you're James Cameron,
I
you
also
get
think
kind of.
that's why it's important to watch movies in a historical context because the way Bad Boys looked at the time did feel like how the newer Bad Boys feel now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and so they were smart and fortunate that they switched directors and they found somebody that apparently is every bit as good.
Yeah.
That's hard to do and doesn't happen
very
often.
much so. And it's somebody who's not just aping a style.
Right.
Who's not just copying, which is kind of what Todd Phillips did in the first one. Like, he is just copying a style. So this whole... there's really not a lot to talk about, honestly. There are things that I thought were... There are moments in this where I was like, damn it! Like, that's good. Like,
Well, I think Joaquin Phoenix is showing up and earning whatever is $50 million, whatever he got paid for this role.
Yeah.
He's there in body. He's there in performance. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix does
The performances are not the problem in this movie. And I would even argue that I don't know that the direction per se is the problem. It's the story.
it's the content.
It's like, because I mean, I think this movie looks fine. It looks like the last one, and that's okay. But like this story is nonsensical, and I don't care. And then just when I think I can't care any less, the movie ends in a way where I'm like, well, now I just hate it.
This movie retroactively makes me not ever want to watch the first one again. This
so I
movie's
will-
so bad that it doesn't happen often. Where usually you say like, "Well, the first one exists."
It's
you can
the
just watch
lost
the first.
finale.
Yes,
of
no, it's
movies.
Game of Thrones is really
Game of
relevant.
Thrones is a great example.
Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, where like I was all in, I was buying the the DVDs or whatever, and I was watching it week to week. And
I bailed on Game of Thrones in season 3.
well,
Oh,
you did
man.
yourself
I
a
was an
favor because
early
it's good
adopter.
through there.
It's great
but,
up until
but,
like season
but
6.
The second to last season, you're like, this isn't as good as it used to be. In that last season, when they go, oh, we got a Star Wars movie and Netflix movies and blah blah blah, and they were out of there, and they ruined the whole thing. I've never watched one episode since. I've never watched House of Dragons. I could not care less.
I kind of want to watch House of Dragons only because I think it's Olivia Cook is in that, and then
I'm
the
sure
girl,
there's some good people.
the girl that is the new Supergirl.
But the point is, they ruined. I was a Game of Thrones fan, not just someone who like watched it, but I was a fan. And they made me never want to watch it again. This movie is so bad that I left it going like, oh, I just feel weird watching the first one. Like, this is such a mess.
So I have kind of done a 180 on the other the other movie. Like I said, I think his performance is out of this world, but
Joaquin Phoenix for you.
I do think that the message is not good. Like, and did Todd Phillips mean for that to happen? Probably not. But it was adopted by incels, and how like the world is the problem. I'm not the problem. Like, you turned me into this. You did this to me. Like,
I think there's two ways you can view that film. You can view that movie as, Arthur Fleck is a guy that no one notices. He's invisible, This guy, people don't care about him. They're mean to him. He has really no one except for his mother, lives with his mother, and that's a obviously messed up situation. There are people like that. But the solution isn't to go around to killing. But I think it is interesting to look at people and think of them like these are human beings. You don't know what they're going through. Have some empathy, have some compassion. But this happens to be a Joker movie, and he's a psychopathic killer. So I think it can shine a spotlight on people, but then be like, oh, that's bad. Not you're supposed to be like, oh, but
he's
stand
the good
up
guy.
for yourself. And
it's falling down.
Yeah, there's
right?
two
Where
ways,
it's like,
that's a movie that I used to really like on DVD, and I wondered in 2024 because that
Like
would be a psychopath.
Yeah.
Right? So like
He's a psychopath in that movie.
yeah, but so I just wondered, but when you watched it, you were kind of like, oh yeah, he's had it up or whatever. I don't know. It was a good movie.
Well, it's also Death Wish is the same way. Death Wish is 100% the same way, where it's like you watch
but
that
didn't his wife got murdered?
his wife is murdered, his daughter is sexually assaulted, and then
He kills bad guys, not people being mean to
He's
him.
also just walking around the streets of New York being like, pow,
He's
pow.
really, really looking for
yeah,
bad guys.
yeah. And by the time you get to Death Wish
well, we don't
4,
talk
the
about
Crackdown,
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah,
yikes.
that's the Rambo 5 or whatever of.
Everything after Death Wish 1 is really the Rambo 5 or Rocky 5.
Yeah.
Of
So
whatever.
it's like you're not.
Sorry,
supposed to-
Pete.
He's not a good guy, and that's the problem when you make these movies so realistic, right? So I think that really is what it comes down to. Is with DC, you have these villains. The point is, they do bad stuff. Batman locks them up. Rinse and repeat. New villain. Batman catches them, locks them up. They escape. Batman has to fight them, lock them up. When you make these movies about the anti-heroes, now I get Harley Quinn abused, trying to get away from the Joker. She's a little bit more of a case
Not
for
this
like
version.
right, but
Yeah.
but in the character, I get Harley Quinn because you're like,
Yeah.
okay, he did something to her mentally, and like we talked about,
He broke
right?
her. He broke her. She was a very successful psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And the Joker zeroing in on her. If you've never read Mad Love, can't recommend that enough. It's a fantastic non-Batman Batman story.
Yeah,
He broke her brain.
yeah,
And he abused her. And I mean, even in Suicide Squad, in the David Ayer Suicide Squad, the way they
yeah. He treats her like crap.
well, but he breaks her brain, and he was like, jump in this vat of chemicals for me. And she's
Yeah.
like, okay, like it's very culty.
But again, let's look at this from two different perspectives. So I like the Harley Quinn character, and I understand how she can get some redemption. Birds of Prey's her redemption. I
Yeah.
get that, right? That works.
The Suicide Squad as well.
But when you're talking about the Joker, you're not supposed to go, oh, let's root for this guy. He's not redeemable.
He's not redeemable.
He is a villain, and you're supposed to have him get caught and go, yes, Batman caught him. Now, it's fun when he escapes, so you can watch Batman catch him, but people have taken him on as the hero. People like love the Joker and that Harley Joker relationship, which again is the most
I will say
destructive.
this
It's the Sid and Nancy of our day.
Yeah.
absolutely
Like,
it is.
just like you've missed the point.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
I will say I do like this twist on their relationship where she's already in. Like she's already in Arkham. So it's not like he had to push her to be this like psychopath.
but she's in there of her own accord. we
That's
find
fine,
out.
but he didn't do anything to break her brain, right? She's in there because
Yeah.
She showed up broken.
she showed up broken.
Look, I like when the comic books will take these characters and then be like, reimagine them of like, if we grounded this more in reality, what would it look like? What would this look like in the real world?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I really liked about the first Joker
Right.
movie. I liked the idea of like, yeah, this is I see how something like this could be created in the real world. And that's but that when you take these stories work because you already know the key benchmarks that the story's going to tell.
Sure.
And so it's about the fun is in watching the different way they get there or the way they give you that benchmark in a slightly different way that you
100%
weren't
agree with you.
anticipating,
Yes.
right? And so like that's what makes these things enjoyable. But like
You mean like seeing Superman fly for the first time or Spider-Man putting on his web shooters for the first time? Is that what you mean?
Or Joker doing crimes and getting caught because
yeah.
that's what happens.
Or like when okay, Spider-Man's a good example. In the Raimi Spider-Man movies,
Yeah.
right? Like when he introduced organic web shooters.
Yeah.
right?
So we've got web shooters, but not the traditional web bracers
Right.
thing.
And I was
Yeah, I'm
like,
with you.
oh, that's cool. I dig that. And I know that was controversial, but I liked, like, he came at it from a slightly different direction that doesn't undermine the story.
Yes.
But, like,
I still love that line from No Way Home,
Yeah.
where Andrew Garfield's
It's like,
like,
where do they come
Where
out
else
of?"
did they come out of anywhere else? And he's
Yeah.
like, no. Why? Why would they? He's like, all right.
but so I like when they, like, we're going to give you this thing, but it's going to be not in quite the way you expected it. Right?
Sure.
And so that's a fun watch. But, like, this.
There was one moment in this movie. There were two moments one that I was kind of thinking was going to happen, one that did happen. So I'm just going to spoil it. This bomb goes off at the courtroom, right? And
oh, good. That means we're at the end.
right, yeah. But I was the whole time the prosecuting attorney is Harvey Dent, who is my favorite Batman villain of all time. So I was like, okay,
I miss Aaron Eckhart, man.
I miss Billy D. Williams. Like, I
Well,
don't
yeah.
care. Like,
I'm
give
like,
me
this little Weasley guy was
so
not
I
Harvey
didn't think
Dent.
I didn't think he was bad. So that's the
okay,
thing.
but
That's the
I
thing
don't
about
know.
Harvey Dent is he is a weasel.
Yeah.
He does have this aura of I'm here for the better of Gotham City,
Yeah.
but I will also do what he. Two-Face is always there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I was like, okay, well, we're getting Two-Face. Like, you don't have Harvey Dent in this movie, and we don't get Two-Face. So this bomb goes off, and it destroys this courtroom. And there's a moment where Arthur Fleck stops and looks at Harvey, and half of his face is messed up. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
It's subtle, too.
I liked that.
I liked that it wasn't, like, totally gnarly, whatever, but it was like you just saw, like, ash, and it's just like a little...
that side of his face was messed up. Like, he had some damage.
But it wasn't like
Tommy
Lee Jones
throw acid in his face, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then the ending of this movie that I thought we were going to get, the Waynes are dead, right? They die at the riots in the first movie, right?
Oh, God, it's been a while.
I think
I thought we were going to get Batman at the end. When he escapes in the car, I'm waiting for Batman to come down and end.
But that would make no sense.
That would make no sense. I thought we were going to get Joker getting found not guilty, walking down the steps, Bruce Wayne shooting the Joker. That's what I'm like, in this world, that's the Bruce Wayne we get, where he's broken because this Joker caused the death of his parents, whatever, and that's what was going to be the end of the movie.
But keep in mind, Bruce Wayne is like 8.
Oh,
he saw Bruce Wayne.
You're right.
He's a little kid.
What? You're totally right.
That's why I said Batman showing up would make no sense. Because he's a child. Like,
but
this is the trial for the
murders
he just committed.
We're a year out.
It's been
a year.
Most it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? But it makes sense though. See, because Arthur Fleck is a Joker. He's not the Joker.
Correct.
Well, and
he has created the mythos of the Joker, and Bruce Wayne's a little kid right now. Arthur Fleck is gone, and we have a new Joker at the end of this movie, which may be Bruce's Joker.
Right.
See, so what I do like is to think about, like, now that Fleck has died, spoilers, he dies at this.
You're going to tell me that guy that killed him didn't look like Heath Ledger? That's absolutely.
I thought he kind of looked like the guy from Gotham too.
I thought he looked, and then the way he put scars on his face, and I was like, you can't do that.
But what? But yeah, but
it's
that's the Joker, not Arthur Fleck. See, Arthur Fleck was a version of the Joker in this Elseworld story.
Yeah.
But now they've actually, in this world, given us what we think is the Joker. He laughs. He cuts a smile into his face. He's obviously insane and loves the killing part of it, where Arthur Fleck, I do think, had mental issues.
Sure.
He was abused. I do think he created the Joker to protect himself, and that's what brought it out on the bus.
Catherine Keener,
everything his lawyer said, I think, was true. And when we get to the courtroom and he totally screws himself over, because I think that is what happened.
Well, he stopped taking his meds, which is a thing that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who's his ex-wife, me, she was a social worker, and she would say this stuff all the time, where it's like people will start to feel good, like they'll start to even out,
and then they think, I feel good, I don't need this anymore.
It's the meds that are making you feel good.
They don't
that are helping you, not making you, but helping you.
That's what's so insidious about mental health, when it can be corrected by medicine, is that, like, if you have diabetes and you take the medicine and your diabetes is under check, you don't think, I don't need my diabetes medicine.
But
because
die.
it's how you think about things,
right.
You're like, well, this is how my brain is supposed to work. I'm okay.
Yep.
And yeah, it's
and I think that's what happens here, right? Harley tells him. I do think Harley is more of a bad guy than he is.
Harley, so in this movie, let's just talk about how Leigh, as they call her, Harley Quinn, is she's comes from a rich family. She has money. She went to medical school.
She does have a doc. Did they say that she's a psychiatrist?
I thought she went to medical school, but dropped out. But they put that in there,
Yeah.
for the history of the character. And she is a Joker super fan, and she checked herself in to meet him. He says, you did all this to meet me? And she's like, yes. She has money. She can pay guards to get into his cell and do these things that are unbelievable, but it's like she's super rich,
right?
And she's just playing this little game. And so she's the one manipulating Arthur, where Arthur is, I think, going through these mental treatments, getting the help he needs, taking his meds, and then as soon as she comes in and she starts pumping him up as, you are the Joker,
right?
This person that her and all the crazy followers love, the Joker, and obviously sent him on this downward spiral where he becomes delusional.
It is weird that we're kind of talking about how bro-y Todd Phillips is, and then we're like, yeah, blame the woman. It's the woman's fault. But I mean, that's the story he told. That's my point. It's like he does tell the story where he makes Harley the villain. Like Arthur,
right after all these great movies and comics of Harley being abused and mistreated by Joker, he goes, "Hey, what if we flip this on our head and make the woman the bad guy?"
That's how
artistic.
Though I'm not saying Harley I do think is a very tragic character. They've
Not
made
in
her
this movie.
Not in this movie.
That's the problem.
Not in this movie. They have made her the Deadpool of DC. Like, that's kind of who she is. She breaks the fourth wall. She has, her stories are always kind of wild. This one, now I don't remember if Todd Phillips had a writing credit. I'm sure he did. I have no doubt that he did.
Yeah.
But making Harley this manipulative bad guy, right?
she's the villain of this movie.
Stop taking your meds. Telling him that she's pregnant.
She's lying to him nonstop. I grew up in your neighborhood.
I grew up in your neighborhood. I saw that movie 40 times. That was actually a funny line that I liked in that movie. In this one, when Zazie Beetz, who they bring her back for like a cup of coffee, and she's like, they made that, why Harvey Dent's like, why are you here?
That was a funny moment.
You ignored all of our subpoenas.
I watched that awful movie.
And he
turns to her and she goes, no.
Yeah.
That was one of the best
I thought
parts.
that was good.
That's a funny
spot.
Put some funny stuff in there.
Because Harley had said, she's like, no, it was so good. It was so wonderful. I watched it 40 times.
Yeah, pure manipulation.
Yeah, it's so it is. I think as now that I'm talking about it, that is something that I thought was problematic. Where it's like, man, like.
The whole thing is that Harley is abused. Since the animated series, her inception was when Paul Dini created her in the animated series. And the whole thing is Joker treats her so terribly, and she wants to get out of there, and she goes and runs with Ivy, but she keeps being drawn back to the Joker, who's very abusive. He's not good. And so they've taken this character and they gave her Birds of Prey, and she has this movie about breaking free of the Joker and how terrible he is, and now she's trying to become a good person.
And she's surrounded by positive women.
Yeah.
Right? She's the Black Canary and the Huntress, and then they give her even bigger like role in the Suicide Squad.
But to have her then be reinvented for this movie as the manipulator and someone who basically, ends up costing Arthur Fleck his life, because I think he did have a good mental health defense. though they didn't want to give it to him, and they were the state and Harvey Dent, they were going after him, I think unfairly, but to put him in his place because he did these horrendous things. But he was mentally traumatized.
Well, he did murder somebody on live TV.
Yeah, right. That's why he wanted to put him.
Bad,
but what I'm
right.
saying is that I think the stuff the lawyer said was not. She was not a scummy defense attorney.
No, Catherine Keener. I do think
she wanted to help him.
Catherine Keener and Brendan Gleeson are both right. That's who that was.
Yeah, but they're opposites.
They are.
Good.
They are. Well, I do.
Brendan Gleeson was not good.
It's interesting because I do think he isn't good in parts, right? Like everything he does have an ulterior motive, right? To get Arthur into the singing group is so he can sing.
Remember when he hits him and he's like, "Oh, thank you," and that hits him hard. Like he's
okay,
not a good person.
That's not okay, but I understand why he did it.
Like the power dynamic. Like
Arthur got a little too comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you can't.
We're not buddies.
We're not buddies. So like the smacking in the back of the head, again, not okay. Yeah. Absolutely not okay. But I can see why he did it. Is when Arthur, he gives Arthur a cigarette. He's like, "Oh, thanks, pal," and smacks him on the back. It's a little too familiar. We're not friends like that.
But I never thought Brendan Gleeson was a good guy.
No.
I think he was doing everything, again, like you said, ulterior motive. They like to make fun of Arthur and mess with him. I think he was trying to make Arthur uncomfortable. Arthur didn't want to sing. He is a bad singer. Like, he did that to mess with him.
No, I think he did it so he could sing.
Yeah, but I think he took joy, all the guards and him took joy in Arthur being uncomfortable.
Well, that one did. That one guy did.
Did
also
they him at the end?
Okay, so
I'm trying to figure
I gotta
out.
tell you, you're the second person to say that, and I didn't pick up on that.
I was wondering it.
I think because at the end, the one guy, the mustache guy, I think unzips his pants because they're like, put him down there. They put him in his place because of what he said during the trial.
Like
and they take him in the bathroom, and the guy, I'm pretty sure, takes his pants off.
Okay.
And then he comes back and they're dragging him in his underwear.
But every time we see Arthur come out of his cell, he's in his underwear. So I was like, okay, so they don't allow him to go into these cells with anything that could they could hurt themselves with. So I didn't see the unzipping of the pants. I took that as we're going to wash this your face, get out of those clothes, and we're going to throw you back in your cell.
I think
you're the second person that said that. So
that's how I read it anyway. I think
I did like the thing where Tim Dillon, who's a stand-up comedian, is the cop that he's the guard that asks for his autograph.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was a funny moment. I like that moment. where he's like, it's gonna be worth so much money after they fry him,
And then he
kind of
changes
looks at
his
him and he says, "I
autograph.
hope you get cancer."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a funny dark humor moment.
Yeah, but there's so few, and like I
We're
said,
talking about in a 2 hour and 18-minute
that's
movie.
what I'm saying.
4 little sprinkles or whatever throughout the movie. It's just not enough to save it. And these musical sequences were so bad and so disjointed. And I mean, the production of them is fine. You know, the camera work, looking at Gaga, but it was just an excuse. This movie is just an excuse. Like, oh, Gaga can sing. Every single scene, let's make her sing.
But it is fun. You're not wrong. But it's also like, we did this. Like, A Star Is Born is this, where it's like, we have Gaga. We want her to sing. Let's put her in a movie where she has the ability to do that. That makes sense. Where she's a rising music star.
That's because, the story is about a musician. This movie is like, oh, we've got Gaga. Let's put her in music class. Oh, we have a cell block of like the most dangerous people. Let's find a way to let them go hang out with music class. Let's let oh, he's delusional. Let's have him envision musical numbers. Like, it's so stupid. And
I
it's
agree.
not artistic. It's not a big swing. I mean, maybe it's a big swing in stupidity, but like none of it pays off.
No.
And whatever he thinks he's doing is just freaking
And
ridiculous.
again, I reiterate, like, this is ending, right? Like, I guess it's not. I guess.
What do you
I mean,
mean?
because it was always outside of that
Yeah.
world. Everybody
Yeah.
was like, because it was such a hit, like, well, maybe it will intersect with the Batman. But,
Right.
but
No, this
I
is
think
totally
we
separate.
have a
It
better
was
chance of getting the Batman in the new DC universe than
Yes.
this.
we
yeah,
would,
like, but it was never intended to. So, like, it was always on a parallel track to all the Snyder stuff. So, like, I don't see this as relating to
No.
what was or wasn't going to happen.
Or what's and the people, you know, we've kind of talked about toxic fandom, where it's like James Gunn messed with Aquaman 2 and it was terrible, and James Gunn, it's like, you are putting so much stock in this idea that James Gunn is just gonna on everything.
Oh, wait till the Superman comes out and it's going to be great. And
I
people
hope.
are just
Man,
going to have to
I gotta
sit
tell you,
and
I've sat through 2 Superman movies since 2006, and they haven't been great.
oh,
So
but
I
they have
really
been
hope
great
that it is.
when you changed your mind.
I
You
hope
liked it
that
when it came out.
Well, of course it was. It was Superman. You know, like, I hadn't had a
I've sat
Superman
through 2
movie.
movies. Bullshit. You liked that movie. I'll go find the recording. The first one.
I liked it because I hadn't gotten a Superman movie in 7 years.
Yeah.
But it's wild to watch this, and then you watch The Batman, or even The Penguin, which is a rated R Sopranos style show that Matt Reeves and James Gunn are putting out, and it's like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
You know
Like,
what? Keep these things separate. Stop. The Avengers was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
not
sure,
going to get
sure,
it again.
sure.
Stop trying to make it. We saw
I
the
don't-
failed experiment of the DCEU.
I will also say that, like, I question if it's possible
to do it again.
to put all the DC characters together in a movie.
Tonally, because
like,
of-
they're tonally
Yeah.
so different, where the Marvel stuff isn't that far apart, but like the world of Batman is very different
Well, I
than
think
the
you
world
could-
of Superman, and it's fun to see on the page or in a cartoon, but to try and make those live action worlds make sense together, I just don't know that you can do it.
There's a great scene. Originally it was a 3-part animated. It was the first meeting of the animated Superman and the animated Batman, called World's Finest. There's a great scene where Batman and Superman show up to like this warehouse for the first time, and Batman's trying to like pick the lock, and Superman just pushes the door in, and he just looks at me and goes, subtle. But like, I do think
I
it's
love the relationship in those shows.
but I like that's what I'm saying. I think you can put Batman and Superman in the Justice League together
in a comic book or a cartoon, but like
in live action, it's very jarring.
because the problem has always been, if Batman is the world's greatest detective,
Yeah.
but aliens and magic actually exist,
Yeah.
then there's ultimately no way to ever truly use logic to solve a mystery.
But I
Oh,
guess
sure,
if you're
sure,
that good, you
sure.
could still follow the clues to the alien clues. Like, I mean,
But someone can always be like, but like, I didn't do it. It was
I will-
magic that
I
made
will-
me do
I
it,
will
or
tell
magic
you-
made it look like I did it, right? Like,
you mean like in Batman's world?
right.
I'm with
so
you.
like, when you read a Batman standalone comic that's not trying to intersect with the rest of the DC universe,
Sure.
you're very much in a world where like magic isn't real.
It is though,
I
because
mean,
he has a relationship with Zatanna.
Zatanna.
right. I mean,
yeah.
there's a little bit of, but
And
like,
John
but
Constantine.
most of those stories they construct it doesn't touch that world.
Oh, we were supposed to get an Emerald Fennel Zatanna movie, I think. That makes me sad.
Do you have that Zatanna miniseries by Paul Dini?
I might.
You should probably find out if you do, because they are not cheap.
Oh, really?
And I mean, not cheap.
Okay.
They are because it was a short run. It was a low print run, and I think it's only 12 issues, but it is phenomenal. It is so good.
When did it come
Unlike
out?
this movie.
2006, maybe 2005.
So the whole movie is Leigh manipulating
might.
Yeah.
Arthur as he's going to trial, and he's got this thing with Catherine Keener where she's trying to protect him, put on this defense.
And she's got his best interest. She's
Yes,
like, look,
she is a pure-
we can win this.
Yes.
And
she
then
is a
Harley,
good defense attorney. She's not like a skeezy, we're going to she's not trying to get him out and he's guilty, but she's going to make up a bunch of things.
Right.
She's this guy has mental issues. He's going to therapy. He's got this split personality defense, which I believe, based on what we've seen, the mother was abusive. And this system that put him back in a home with an abusive mother says he's not crazy. Who are you going to believe? It's a very good defense.
That line where she says, how long did you talk to him? And he was like,
Yeah.
about an hour and a half. She's like, 89 minutes or 2 hours. She's like, 89 minutes.
2 hours, 89, yeah.
Did you think you were able to? And I was like, this is the kind of
Scene.
this is the kind of I want.
Yes.
I like this.
But then they're like, that good courtroom drama we had for 5 minutes? No, let's have Arthur fire his attorney and be his own defense attorney, but then not have a defense. So he just is going to go up there and be like, no, I'm done. It was so stupid. It could have been really interesting.
I also did like bringing back. I like the Puddles thing.
That was the best scene in the movie.
Where he's just like, wait a
Hands
minute, your
down.
name is Puddles? This is ridiculous.
But that's the best scene.
Yeah.
I think. As far
I don't
as
disagree. It's he lets
they're doing
Joaquin
something
Phoenix.
there,
Yeah.
It's,
And I do like that because that scene he does say, bye, Gary.
Yeah.
See ya. And he's like,
You were the only one that was nice to me that didn't make fun of me.
that to me,
Why'd
I
you
was
do
like,
this to me?
that. So when he starts doing that, going into that monologue about how
Yeah.
Arthur, you were nice to me. This isn't you. This isn't this. I was like,
Yeah.
well, there it is.
I
This
thought
guy is
this-
saying it's not you.
Yes,
this is,
see, I thought the movie was going in a direction where Arthur, despite every effort to do everything wrong, and Gaga and all the Joker fans and everything trying to just make him this hero, this crazy guy that everyone else is going to go, yeah, this guy's nuts and needs
Right.
to be killed. I thought that Puddles was going to come up there and clear him because the
he says it though. He says the whole defense is that these are two separate people. Arthur Fleck and the Joker are
Right.
two different people. So when Puddles gets up there, he's like, "This isn't you.
Right.
This isn't the Arthur that didn't make fun of me. You were always nice
right.
to
So
me."
I thought the jury was going to buy that,
Yeah.
but then
They don't.
no.
I wonder how many versions of this script there are, because it
Oh, that's
feels like there
interesting.
might be a lot.
Oh, yeah. This movie's so disjointed.
I think it would have been much more interesting if they had just doubled down and made it a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like in the same way that
Trial
they
of the
kind of
Joker.
head faked us with the first one and made this weird Taxi Driver-esque
Yeah.
art house movie.
Yeah.
Be like, this time we're just going to give you courtroom drama. How would this play out in the court? That would be interesting.
In the real world, there was an interesting thing there about the following getting bigger and bigger in the crowds.
Well, as he's getting sicker and sicker and becoming more and more so okay, I know I've referenced Primal Fear. If you haven't seen it, shut up,
Isn't it
go
Richard
watch
Gere?
it. It is Richard Gere and Ed Norton.
Ed Norton.
And
This is
Norton.
the
And I'm
first movie that Ed Norton. I don't know if it's his first movie.
It's the one where people are like, oh,
but it's the one
He
where
directed
people
it?
were
Oh,
like,
no. This guy's
who
good."
is this guy?
Yeah. I'm gonna spoil it. It's from 1994. Stop, pause it, go fast forward. The whole time it's a split. You think it's a split personality. It's not. He's fucking with him the whole time. That's what this movie should have been. We see at the end of the first
That's what
Joker.
I'm saying.
At the first Joker, we're like, oh, he's full Joker.
Yeah.
So this movie is him being Arthur Fleck and all blah blah blah. When he's found not guilty,
He
it's
should have
like
Kaiser
by the-
Soze it. He should have. He should have
Absolutely.
stopped limping when he gets freed and cleared of the jury, and
should
then
start-
does some crime shit with Harley
He should
Quinn.
start dancing down the court
Yes,
steps.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Everything you thought this movie was, maybe they're doing a fake. Maybe Leigh's in on it. Maybe they're going to clear him and then really be evil, and they had this plan and all this stuff. No, they just abandoned it all and basically said, "Oh, that's not the Joker. That's just a Joker."
It's a guy who adopted this.
Yeah,
person.
and a guy that people done from beginning to end, the whole first movie and pretty much the whole second movie. As soon as he stopped being the Joker, which got this crazy following, and was Arthur Fleck, no one cared.
Even Harley.
Leigh is like, I don't
I'm
care.
out.
I was only here for the Joker. When you said the Joker's not real, at the end of his terrible non-defense where he fires his lawyer and goes through all this stuff, he basically says the last day when he comes back, he's like, I'm not the Joker. I'm Arthur Fleck. And
Right.
everyone starts leaving. Leigh leaves. And that's it.
That's
no
it.
one cares anymore. I mean, there's some people outside that are still nuts, but
Yeah, I
for
mean,
the
they
most
blow
part,
up. That's the whole ending sequence we talked about, is where there's a car bomb that goes off. Again, I it's interesting. It was very evocative of 9/11, of people walking in the streets or Oklahoma City. But there was a moment where I'm watching that, I was like, oh, for me, like, I feel like I am far enough removed from 9/11
it doesn't feel as
that
weird
it
as
did not
used to.
feel as
Yeah.
weird. Like, it didn't feel Batman versus Superman.
It felt weird.
It felt weird.
Yeah.
But 23 years later, not obviously never forgetting all that, but you're right. We're far enough removed from now. If that happens in a big city like that, you're not jumping immediately to
It didn't.
that.
It
It's
didn't
more,
feel as manipulative, I guess. Where I do feel like Man of Steel or things like that use it as kind of a manipulating tool.
Or exploitive.
Exploitive. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
manipulative. Exploitive, I guess, is the better term.
exploitative.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, he gets
that tracking shot where he gets in the car and then the camera goes down to him. That's the best looking shot of the movie.
Yeah.
I will say. Him getting
It
in
cost
the-
$190 million.
Is that
Yeah,
why?
that's why.
So anyway,
well, they
bomb,
killed that guy when they hit him with the car.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
bomb goes off. The jury is in the middle of reading, like, I think 3 guilty verdicts. They're going
Yeah.
to find him guilty on every single count. Bomb goes off. We see Harvey Dent there. He walks out, and there's just chaos in the street. Cops are trying to help people. Then a Joker that looks like him dressed up as the Joker comes running after him like, is it you? Is it you? Come on, we got to go. And it's this tracking shot. A lot of tracking shots. He does not cut a lot. To
Nope.
his credit, I don't think it's a great-looking movie, but they do, especially the dance sequences. Like, again, because Phoenix is a phenomenal actor, he's actually singing, and, like, they're not cutting. He's doing the whole number,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's tracking
they're
him.
singing live on set.
Yeah, you can
That's
tell.
not lip sync.
Which again, I appreciate him going for it, and it's not that I don't appreciate that part of it, but it's just hard to watch a whole movie.
I saw an
like that,
interview
you know?
where they were talking about that decision and that they were
To let
gonna-
him go.
to sing on set.
Yeah.
And that originally they were gonna lip sync it, and then Lady Gaga was like, "Wouldn't it be more interesting if we actually sang on set?" And Joaquin Phoenix was like, "Well, yes, if you're Lady Gaga." Yeah.
He's funny.
It is. I did see a couple of those interviews where he was like, I call her Stephanie. And it's like, don't be a dick. Like, we all know what her name is, but we also know
Stephanie
her.
Germanotta.
Yeah, like, we also know who she is. Do you think I was actually talking to a friend about this. Taylor Swift is like number 1, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
monetarily.
Like,
she's
no-
got to be number 2, right? Or 3? Is
I don't-
Beyonce number 2?
I think Beyonce over because Lady Gaga hasn't put out like an actual record.
I
in
guess
a
that's
long
true.
But
time.
she made a lot of money for a long time. She was more famous than Taylor Swift for a while, right? Like when she was doing country and stuff, Lady Gaga was doing meat
Oh,
suits
yeah.
and crazy. Like Gaga was the biggest superstar on the awards circuit.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
And but yeah, so I'm sure she doesn't have to work. She can do this stuff. She can pursue acting.
Right.
She can do whatever she wants.
She can try to pull a Prince and do a soundtrack for a movie she's in.
So, but anyway, this tracking shot's really cool. I do like it. I think it was the best part of the movie, but it's just pure chaos. He ends up running out of the car. Then it turns into Beau is Afraid. When he's running away from the car and there's the chaos, it's straight out of this movie Beau is Afraid, which I loved. But anyway, he's running away, and then
Was it like 9 hours?
no, it was like a couple hours, but it was
Okay.
just it was pure.
Oh,
It was like
felt like-
after
it felt
hours.
like
It was
9
just
hours.
pure
Yeah.
terrible things happening to Joaquin Phoenix. So anyway, he goes to the steps and he sees Leigh up
Harley.
there.
Yeah, and
it's
then
the
she's-
steps,
and
from the
she's
movie,
like-
minus pedophile songs playing.
Yeah. Which again, I know we talked about that in the first one and about his choices, and it's like, brother, that's a choice you're making to put that song in
Talk
your
to
movie.
every baseball stadium in the United States.
I don't think they played anymore.
Well, but they did for a long time.
And
They
they
stopped.
didn't-
I think they replaced it with Mas Tequila, which is basically the same song but with lyrics. But for some reason,
That's
he
okay.
Never got sued
But he
for
did
it.
stuff. I mean, that was a long time ago, right?
yeah, but he just got found. Well, he's dead now.
yeah, but it's like they played it at stadiums for a long time. When
Yeah, but I feel like when he went to jail is when people were just like, maybe
Yeah.
not. But yeah, so she's on the steps and she was like, "Yeah, man, I'm out. Like, I don't want to. This was all part of the fantasy."
Yeah.
So yeah, and she manipulates him into not taking his meds, believing that they're in love, believing that she's pregnant, believing that they came up together, that she understands him. There's all of the
Maybe she is pregnant, and that will be the Joker.
God, I hope
She
not.
raises the real Joker,
God.
and it's Jared Leto.
What a twist. And she walks away, and she's like, "See ya," and just
And then
pimps
at
away.
that point, he's done. The cops roll up. He doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, and
He's lost.
he goes back to jail.
And of course, he said all those terrible things, so they take him to the bathroom and maybe
No,
remain.
that is after that's during the trial.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What
so he
happens
goes
when
back. He goes back, and everything's kind of back to normal.
Oh,
He's
that's right. Where
docile. He's
Brendan
watching.
Gleeson's like, "Welcome back," and tips the cap.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there has been this character. We talked about it earlier. There's been this character kind of in the background all this whole time.
It was clear they focused on him so many times.
Yes.
And he didn't have any speaking parts where you're like, well, you can't just hang on a character like that. And
right.
not-
Like, we're gonna tell me who, Okay.
And he does look like there was a creepy, smiley look to him.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to try to like manipulate him or be like a super fan or something.
Oh,
The way
yeah,
when he was looking at him in the corner-
I forgot. Brendan Gleeson's not a bad, not even a good guy, not even a decent guy, because he does murder an inmate.
That's what I was saying.
I forgot about that.
He murders an
does
inmate. He
murder-
chokes him when he starts saying like,
strangles
yeah,
him.
and he strangles him, and the guy's like, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
And
Well, you hear it's such a. I will say I did like the audio of that. Is it's Arthur in the cell,
Yeah.
and you hear the guy's head like hit the ground,
Yeah.
and the other cop's like, "Oh man, he's gone."
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're right.
Brendan Gleeson was a
I forgot.
very
I
bad
totally
dude.
forgot about that part. So yeah, there's somebody here to see you. I was like, here we go. Like, this is Bruce. This is gonna be Bruce. That he's gonna shoot. Arthur. Blah blah blah. As Arthur's walking down the hallway, this guy kind of stumps up. He's like, "Hey, can I tell you a joke?" And Arthur's
Who do you
like,
think was there? Because if it wasn't a setup, unless the guards did want that guy to kill him, but
I don't
think there was a setup. I think he was a crazy.
It could have been
Joker.
Catherine Keener. It could have been Harley.
But
it
I
could have
wonder,
been-
though. I mean, that's an interesting. Who would see? We fired the lawyer already. I don't think Harley cares anymore. I wonder who was going to see him.
I think in my movie, it's Bruce or Alfred.
right.
Okay, but Bruce is 10 years old.
But he's also the golden boy of Gotham. And if he says, "I want to see the man that caused my parents to die," you put Bruce in that room. I think it could have been
an
Al-
interesting scene.
right. I agree with
I
you.
just don't know that a 10-year-old would even.
No.
But
ask
if we're
that.
talking about a 10-year-old that's going to be Batman,
Yeah.
But
there is
also-
a darkness. They always say that there's a darkness to Bruce as soon as his
Sure.
parents died.
Sure. So the other thing that's interesting though is it did feel a little bit like a setup because the guards like come with me.
That's
and then
true.
No one
He does
checks
kind of-
on
he
him
does
for-
kind of, like,
I mean,
walk around the
he
corner.
gets stabbed and killed, and no one ever go. Like if you were the guard, you'd look behind you and go,
Hey, wait
the
a
guy's
minute."
supposed to be in the thing." Like,
Right.
So the fact that no one ever comes back does make me think that they let that guy
Yeah.
with him, or you
That's
know what I'm
true.
saying? It did feel a little bit too. Like you wouldn't leave a crazy inmate. You wouldn't leave the Joker, especially
Yeah.
to just walk.
It
by
is
himself
Arkham, though.
for-
The
Yeah.
guards at Arkham aren't the best. We've seen that time and time again where these just keep getting out. So yeah, this guy, he tells him this, basically runs down the Joker. He's like, the drunk guy walks into a bar. He's like, you get what you deserve. And he guts Arthur. Arthur kind of he dies. You can see off camera the guy is sitting down. I thought he was going to cut his own throat. He does not. He definitely cuts a smile into his face.
But
And I
see,
was
this
like,
is not an ending for Arthur that is undeserved. Like Arthur's done some really bad things, and you're not supposed to view Arthur as the hero and like, oh, I wanted the Joker to get out.
the
and be
way
the
this is
Joker.
filmed, this is like a tragic ending for Arthur. I think that is what they're trying to say is like,
I think the system. I think overall, if they were better at writing this movie, it is a tragedy. Arthur is a case of tragedy. He was abused. The system
failed him.
failed him. Thank
Yeah.
you. The system failed him. Kept sending him back home with his abusive mother and abusive boyfriends. Mistreated him his whole life, and in the end, he did have a mental disorder. And all these people, and I think because Harvey Dent is such a go-getter, I think he made that doctor say that Arthur is not like. I felt that there was some.
I think Catherine Keener makes a great point where Harvey can say, look, we talked to the guy. Like we talked to him in, this doctor thinks that I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
Like I worked in the courts for 11 years. I've seen this happen where a prosecutor will not manipulate someone's testimony, but use it to further the case.
That's what
And I
they
think
try
that's
to
what
do,
Harvey
yeah.
does here.
Yeah.
And then Catherine Keener and I've seen defense attorneys do this.
Yeah, they come back.
They
and-
were like, but you say you
Yeah.
talked to him, but you talked to him for 2 hours, and it's like, well, actually, you did this, and then
so Gaga, again, to my point from earlier, Gaga got him killed. Leigh got him. I mean, not saying that he for sure was going to get cleared or not get the death sentence, but he was on a path where Catherine Keener had a very good defense, and I believe from what we've seen, a valid defense. He was abused and he had these mental issues, and then because she's like, oh, I love the Joker, and I'm going to go in and I want to check myself in to be with the Joker, and I want him to lead our crazy pack or whatever. And then when he says no, she's out.
Right.
And so she led him down this destructive path, and
she
leaves free.
She broke him.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Which that's an interesting flip if it were a different character.
Agreed.
Right?
I agree.
That's an interesting to flip it on its head, but this is Harley Quinn, who has a very traumatic
to me
backstory.
I like the idea, like going back to the concept of like taking these pieces and rearranging them slightly, and like, but what if it had worked like this? Like, you know, like that's fun, but also the optics of making Harley Quinn secretly the villain are a little difficult to take, especially for a guy who appears to be trying to walk back all the bro bull from the first one.
Right. It's killing Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing as being like, I'm sorry, did you just murder? Like,
it's not the same, because killing Jimmy Olsen is just dumb. Where
I see.
Making Harley Quinn
the straight up villain
is like that just has a ring of misogyny about it.
You're totally
That's
right.
really hard to look past.
Yeah.
Her whole
where
thing.
killing Jimmy Olsen was just like, that was a dumb,
useless,
stupid waste of a character.
Right.
Like, what did you hope to accomplish? But it didn't seem to make some weird political statement at the same time.
That's fair.
It's
That's a good point.
insulting to make Harley the villain.
Yes.
It's insulting to
100%
make
agree
Harley
with
the
you.
manipulator. That's what's so anger-inducing about this movie, is that they've taken a character with a very tragic backstory and a very storied for the past 20 years of where she came from and how she was mistreated and all that. They've taken that and they've made her the villain, her the manipulator, to a mentally ill person that did have a very tragic past. And this movie should have been the defense of Arthur and people having at least some empathy or compassion on how the system broke him. But instead, it's a movie trying to undo the first one, which we talked about before. Star Wars has done it. Halloween has done it, the newer ones. Like, they try to just undo what they've done, all the goodwill they've earned, and then they try to make...
Which Halloweens? What are you talking about?
Well, like the last two movies. Like, the first one was so good, 2018.
What are you talking about?
Oh, we don't have time to get sorry. You're the minority on that one. But, yeah, it's just insulting.
I know we're recording digitally, but we don't have enough tape.
Yeah, we're out. The hard drives will fill up at some point. So, yeah, this is
a mess. It does feel like, you know, you've got the Penguin show on HBO, which is fantastic. You've got, but next summer, I guess before that, because the Creature Commandos is going to come out.
That's animated, right?
Yeah. But they're going into a hard reboot. Now, James Gunn
Peacemaker 2 is done filming. That will come out at some point.
Is it done filming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they filmed that a long time ago, I believe.
He has said we're going to do Elseworld stuff. So there's going to be stuff that's going to be outside of the DC.
I love it. Tell different stories and stop trying to cram everything together. I want an interesting story like the Joker was.
Give me the Michael B. Jordan Superman movie.
Yeah.
By J.J. Abrams. Like a Superman movie by J.J. Abrams. Yep. Like, it should have gotten a Spielberg one at some point. That would have been amazing.
Give a Speeding Bullet.
Man, that would be wild.
Dude, I would love that as a movie. That's one of my favorite.
Actually, you could probably do that story with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
As that Superman.
Yeah, Speeding Bullets. Come on. The
what if
Waynes find Baby Clark.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, it's so
like
interesting.
Super Batman.
Yeah, I would love that little story.
So you're going to, like, I think this is the end of the Todd Phillips experiment. I think
based on the box office.
Man, it's wild.
How much did it make on a 200?
I think it says 20. I don't know if that's for the weekend but I
think it was 7 on Thursday.
Because I know the previews were soft, and they were saying that it does not appear, and it got a D CinemaScore,
which is insane.
It's the first comic book movie to ever get a D CinemaScore.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying, is that
this movie's for no one.
That's exactly
the people that misinterpreted the first one will hate it, and the people that liked the first one for the proper reasons will also hate it.
It's a very impressive thing to do, honestly. It's like,
how do
you piss off both of your audiences? Well,
even the Suicide Squad has these fans that love Suicide Squad, but this movie I don't think has any following.
No.
And
Well,
unless
it's- I
probably
mean, 'cause-
Gaga followers or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a repudiation of the people who embraced the first one.
Excellent word.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if it were a good movie, I'm all for people being.
Yeah, like I
I
think
want that.
That could have been an interesting movie, and I think if that's what he wanted to do, the courtroom drama aspect is the way to go to really pick apart what that first
Yes.
movie
Yeah,
was saying.
Because
Oh,
you have
yeah.
the evidence, all the evidence
yeah, like
presents it all.
that would have been a fascinating
Or have
undertaking.
or have him be the manipulator and
Yeah.
acting like he's
Yes.
Arthur Fleck, and then at the end Kaiser Soze
Yes,
it, and
there's
then
so
by
many
the
ways
way,
they could have done this,
Yeah.
but instead they spend an hour and a half of Arthur Fleck being sad in jail,
Right.
and then nothing else happening, rushing the court stuff along.
and then singing the golden hits of the 70s.
Oh, so bad. None of those
Or
needle
50s.
drops. None of him drop like. None of the songs I went like, oh yeah, well that is a good this is really good. Like it was just all dumb.
Yep.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I guess
Swing and a miss.
yes. I guess that's it for
Yeah,
this
that's
one.
the thing though too. Real quick though, it's not so much. This is not worse than maybe Borderlands. You know what I mean? Like Borderlands looked terrible. Everything was
Yeah.
terrible. This movie though had so much potential with the characters.
Yeah.
DC, the first one made $1 billion. It's how disappointing this one is.
Yeah.
That makes it worse than Borderlands is a great game and it's like didn't need a movie.
Right.
This is like, how do you mess this up so bad? And that's why
Yeah.
it's that big of a disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about expectations, right? Like you know that there's no excuse, like right, like
Yeah.
you know that they have the talent, you know that they have the money. Like
Yeah.
it's not like the studio is hamstringing them. Maybe the studio should have, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think
totally,
because
totally.
the first one was such a success, the studio was probably kind of like, well, we really can't give notes. Like we gave notes last time and we were really wrong.
Yeah.
So
No, I think this was his blank check.
Yeah.
The movie made $1 billion.
Absolutely.
He got to do whatever he wanted.
so
and-
between the two, they'll break even.
yeah.
Well, anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21, and on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon, where for $5 a month you get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, Roxy and Velma perform as a double act.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you.